Imagine a city so enormous that no nation on earth could contain it. A city with walls made of precious stones, streets that shine like gold, gates that never close. A city where there is no night, no sun, no moon, and no need for either. Strange, isn't it? Because the greatest mystery isn't that someone described such a place. The mystery is that millions of people still wonder what it means. Nearly 2,000 years ago, an old man named John wrote about something he claimed to have seen. Not a kingdom, not a palace, a city. A city unlike anything humanity had ever built, and unlike anything humanity has built since. Most people hear the story and immediately ask, will this city one day appear? But perhaps that isn't the right question. Because what if John wasn't describing a place? What if he was describing an idea? Then comes a detail that most people read and immediately forget. John doesn't describe a village, or a kingdom, or even a capital city. He describes something so vast that the mind struggles to picture it. Imagine standing at one edge of a city and knowing that you could travel for days, perhaps weeks, and still remain inside its walls. Why would a vision need a city that large? Why not a paradise? Why not a garden? Why a city beyond imagination? Unless the size itself was trying to tell us something. Not about architecture, not about engineering, but about the scale of the idea John was trying to describe. Then comes something even stranger. The city has no temple. For ancient people, this would have sounded impossible. Every sacred city had a temple. Every civilization built places where heaven and earth could meet. Yet in this city, there is none. Why? Why remove the very thing people expected to find, unless the vision was trying to challenge everything humanity believed about the sacred? For centuries, people have argued about what John saw. A prophecy? A dream? A metaphor? A glimpse of the future? But perhaps the most unsettling possibility is this. What if the vision was never meant to be fully understood? What if it was designed to provoke questions rather than provide answers? Because 2,000 years later, we are still asking them, and the deeper we look into the description, the stranger it becomes. Because the city isn't just beautiful, it's built from symbols, symbols that may hide a meaning most people never notice. Everyone focuses on the city, the walls, the gates, the streets of gold. But what if we've been looking at the wrong thing? What if the greatest mystery isn't what John saw, but why he described it that way? Think about it. If someone wanted to describe heaven, why choose a city? Why not endless light? Why not a beautiful garden? Why not something beyond human imagination? Instead, John describes something surprisingly familiar, a city, as if he was trying to explain the unexplainable, using the only language people would understand. There is another possibility, one that most people never consider. What if John wasn't actually seeing buildings? What if he was seeing something so strange, so far beyond ordinary experience, that his mind translated it into the closest thing he knew? Imagine trying to describe the internet to someone living 2,000 years ago. What words would you use? What comparisons would make sense? Perhaps John's city was never a city at all, because throughout history, people have described extraordinary experiences using ordinary symbols. Fire, water, mountains, cities. Not because those things were literally there, but because language has limits. And sometimes, a symbol is the only way to point toward something greater. And if the city itself is not the destination, then who was the vision really meant for? The people of John's time, or someone much later? Imagine writing a message knowing that the people reading it might not understand it. Not because they are unintelligent, but because they are too close to it, too close to their own world, too close to their own fears, too close to their own time. What if John's vision was never intended only for the people around him? What if it was meant for people living centuries later? People like us. Remember where John was when he received the vision. He wasn't standing in a palace. He wasn't surrounded by power. He wasn't addressing the rulers of the world. He was alone, exiled, isolated on a small island, far from influence, far from comfort. Yet somehow, he describes a future more vivid than the world around him. Why? Because people rarely dream of the future when life is easy. They dream of it when they feel trapped. Generation believes it is living at the end of history. Every generation thinks its struggles are unique, its fears unprecedented, its future uncertain. Yet generation after generation, people continue returning to the same vision. Why? Because perhaps New Jerusalem was never a prediction. Perhaps it was a mirror. A way for people to see what they longed for most: order in chaos, hope in uncertainty, meaning in a world that often feels random. But there is another possibility, one that rarely gets discussed. What if the vision wasn't describing the future, but describing a reality that already exists? Not somewhere we can travel, not somewhere we can find on a map, but something hidden beyond ordinary perception. A reality John believed he had briefly seen, and then spent the rest of his life trying to explain. There is another possibility, one that is far more unsettling. What if John described the city exactly as he saw it, and it still wasn't enough? Imagine standing before something so vast, so beautiful, so completely outside human experience, that every word feels too small, every comparison feels wrong, every description feels incomplete. Not because the vision was unclear, but because human language was never designed to explain eternity. Perhaps John wasn't struggling to understand what he saw. Perhaps he was struggling to find words that could bring even a fraction of it back with him. And maybe what we are reading today is only the shadow of something far greater. But there is one final detail in John's vision that changes everything, because the city does not merely shine. It has no sun, no moon, and yet it is filled with light. Hidden inside the vision is a detail so strange that many people read past it without stopping. John says the city has no need for the sun, no need for the moon. Think about that. Every civilization in history has lived by the rhythm of light and darkness, day and night, sunrise and sunset. Yet in this city, that cycle no longer exists. Imagine a world without night, not a long summer day, not a place near the poles. No night at all, no shadows stretching across the ground, no darkness waiting beyond the horizon. And then ask yourself something strange. Why do humans need darkness in the first place? Every fear we have ever known hides there. The things we cannot see, the things we cannot understand, the questions that keep us awake long after everyone else has fallen asleep. Yet in John's vision, darkness simply doesn't exist. Not because it was defeated, not because it was chased away, but because it was no longer needed. And perhaps that is the most mysterious part of all. A reality where nothing remains hidden, nothing remains unanswered, nothing remains unknown. There is something else we rarely consider. Perhaps the reason this vision feels impossible is because it was never meant to fit inside human experience. Think about it. A fish cannot imagine the sky. A child cannot imagine old age. And perhaps we cannot imagine a reality beyond our own. Every thought we have, every dream, every fear is built from things we already know. But what if John was shown something beyond that limit? Something that did not belong to the world of time, or decay, or death? How would anyone describe such a place? Maybe the mystery is not the city. Maybe the mystery is that a human mind tried to understand something far beyond itself, and somehow brought back a glimpse. And this is where the mystery becomes unsettling, because the vision never explains the source of the light. It simply exists, constant, unchanging, eternal. Was it a metaphor, a spiritual reality, a glimpse of something beyond human understanding, or something else entirely? 2,000 years later, the question remains unanswered. And perhaps the strangest part of John's vision isn't the city. It isn't the light. It isn't the impossible beauty. It is something far more mysterious. Fear is everywhere in the human story. Fear of the unknown, fear of death, fear of what comes next. Yet as John's vision reaches its end, something unusual happens. The fear disappears, not because every question has been answered, not because every mystery has been solved, but because for the first time, the unknown no longer feels threatening. Think about that. After everything he witnessed, after everything he struggled to describe, John does not leave us with terror. He leaves us with hope. And perhaps that is the greatest mystery of all. What did he see that made him unafraid? Because the deeper mystery may not be what John saw. The deeper mystery may be what it did to him. And in the final part, we will ask the question that changes everything. What if New Jerusalem was never about a city at all? And that raises a question few people ask. An invitation? To whom? To the people of John's time? To future generations? To believers? To everyone? Because invitations only matter when someone can choose. And choice is a strange thing to place at the end of a vision that seems larger than humanity itself. Perhaps this is where we have misunderstood the story. What if New Jerusalem was never the destination? What if the city was only a symbol pointing toward something else? Because throughout history, people have searched for lost cities, hidden kingdoms, secret knowledge. Yet John's vision ends by turning attention away from the city and back toward the person reading it. Think about it. For nearly 2,000 years, people have argued about the walls, the gates, the measurements, the gold, the light. Yet perhaps the greatest mystery was never the city itself. Perhaps the mystery is why the vision continues to speak to people who live in completely different worlds, different centuries, different cultures, different lives, and still, they see something in it. So, what did John really see? A future city? Perhaps John really did see a place prepared by God, not a metaphor, not a dream, but a reality beyond anything he had ever known. And perhaps the reason his description feels impossible is because no human language was ever meant to describe eternity.